All right, back here at Tommy Yankello's World Class Boxing. As promised, we've got a preview of two big pay-per-view fights coming up. The first on HBO, March 26th from the Oracle Arena in Oakland. Andre Ward making his debut as a light heavyweight. He takes on Sullivan Barrera. And then on April 9th at the MGM Grand, it is Manny Pacquiao, Timothy Bradley 3. The rubber matches are great fights, and that'll be courtesy of Showtime pay-per-view and HBO Boxing. This is Kiante Irving. He is a light heavyweight, fights at 178, and he'll be fighting at the Priory PCNC tomorrow night in the main event. How are you?
I'm good.
So how's his career going?
Oh, it's been going good, man. I'm getting a lot of fights lately from week to week. Doing a lot of sparring with some great guys, and it's going good.
And you got the pride of Brighton Heights, Ed Lattimore, who's undefeated as a heavyweight, shooting this video for me, and he, of course, working on that electrical engineering degree, courtesy of Duquesne and Pitt, so definitely building a brighter future for him. What's your future plans? What do you see yourself doing?
Well, really, this is it. This is my future here. I've been putting everything I got into this, 110%.
When did you first realize this is something you wanted to do?
Actually, when I first started, when I was 16, I came here. Met with Tom. I actually got in here from Quan Kimbrough, actually.
Okay.
And he introduced me to Tom and all that stuff. And ever since then, it became natural to me, and it just clicked. And so I'm like, this is what I'm going to do with the rest of my life.
I know everybody has their own identity, but you can't help but make the comparison to Tommy Hearns. Do you ever think about Tommy Hearns a little bit when you're
yeah. I get that a lot. People they want to call me like the Hitman,
right,
and this and that for my nickname, but I don't know. Yeah, I do have his like built, the length, the height,
long reach.
Yeah, but I think I'm like a 2.0 version of Tommy Hearns, better version of that.
Real quick, how excited about tomorrow night are you? PCNC main event at the Priory on the North Shore.
Pretty excited. I'm looking forward to it. I get to get that international look from a different country, see how those fighters fight. So it's going to be good, I think.
They're calling it the Donnybrook because it's St. Patrick's Day, and there's no place better to celebrate than on the North Shore of the city of Pittsburgh. Okay, next, Tommy Yankello and I talking boxing from Tommy Yankello's World Class Boxing in Ambridge. Best of luck tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
Corlew helps Tommy Yankello train some amazing fighters. Kiante Irving you just met, Ed Lattimore, we talked about him, Morgan Fitch, and C.C. Clark. So let's talk about this wonderful stable of fighters that you have here, Tommy.
Great group of guys, and I think they all have great assets. Some of them have different strengths. Some have, I think they just have they're a great group of guys with a ton of talent, and they're developing beautifully, actually. I love where they're at right now.
Well, you got these fighters all over. The Donnybrook at the Priory, 8 o'clock, PCNC. Tell me about that, and how excited are you to be in the main event?
Well, that's great. I mean, we fought Ireland 15 years ago. I was in Ireland for the World Championship games, so this would be the first time I think I've had a kid. Well, I take that back. Quan fought Ireland in 2003, and he scored a knockout. And so it'd be the first time that I've seen one of my guys fight a kid from Ireland. Probably that's 12 years ago already. Wow, 2003. So looking forward to it. Kiante has developed over the last 4 or 5 months, and he's really stepped up his game. And I'm expecting big things from him.
You mentioned Quan Kimbrough, and I was telling some people before we shot this interview that I remember having Emmanuel Stewart on the air with me saying that for Quan, at the same age at the time, which was his early 20s, he had more talent, the words of the late Emmanuel Stewart, than Sugar Ray Leonard. I think of Monty Mesa Clay, I think of Paul Spatafor. You've been a part of all of them. Right. 3 amazing fighters, huh?
Well, no doubt, but that's something to learn from all of those guys.
Let's talk about Andre Ward, stepping up to the light heavyweight division, a gold medalist, something that you believe is so essential if you really want to take it to the next level. If you have the opportunity, go for the gold first. 28 fights, undefeated. Obviously, he brings a lot to the game. Is this a natural move for him going to the light heavyweight division, do you think?
I think so. I mean, he was a light heavyweight as an amateur, actually, believe it or not. He fought at 178 when he won the gold. Even though he wasn't 178, he was fighting guys that were 178. So it's not going to be something that I think is going to be overwhelming at all for him. I think he's an all-time great. I think that He hasn't lost a fight since he was 12 years old.
That's amazing.
So, that right there, I got to know him as a kid, and I actually, I was an assistant coach on some of the teams that he was on, because Rapalm was on the same team as Andre Ward one time,
Wow.
2003. And, I think it's the best thing for him right now. He's got to challenge himself. He's been off. He hasn't really had the, he's had some promotional problems, and he wasn't as active. He only had, he's probably fought twice in the last 3 or 4 years. So that kind of bothers me though, because I think when you're active, you're at your best. When you're not active, that can hurt you. So, this fight here's a good test for him. He definitely needs a couple tests. They're priming this up for the big fight is for Sergey Kovalev. That's what they're trying to promote and trying to build up. And he's going to need a couple of fights before he fights Kovalev in the light heavyweight division, just because of his inactivity. And just like I said, he needs to get those fights in again, get active again, get ready to be fighting the bigger guys at light heavyweight. And then I think, probably by the end of the year, early next year, he fights Kovalev, and that's going to be an all-time classic, because I think Kovalev is a great fighter, too. I think that he hasn't beat the guys that Ward has beaten, so his resume doesn't say that he's great. But if you look at the product and you look at the guy and you see the skills that he has, I think he has the makings of a great. So you got a guy that's, in the process of being an all-time great, working and developing towards that. And I think Andre Ward has already proven that he's an all-time great with all the defenses that he's done as a super middleweight and what he's done as an amateur. I think that he's proven he's an all-time great. So you're going to have two all-time greats fighting each other. That's a great fight.
But he's got Sullivan Barrero, 17-0 out of Cuba up first. Yeah. And I go back to Teofilo Stevenson, the great Olympian gold medalist. Cuba always had great fighters. Right. Talk about the matchup. What do you see?
I'll tell you what, it's funny because when you asked me to do this interview last night, I looked the kid up because I had never really known anything about him. And I looked at his record, and then I looked at him on YouTube. And I looked him up a little bit. His history is, I think he was pretty much an outstanding amateur. I didn't look too much at his amateur background, but I think that he had a pretty good amateur background from what I heard on the telecast when I was watching YouTube. Mm-hmm. They had said a few things. And then I watched his, just watched his, his abilities and his talent and skills that I was trying to observe, what kind of challenge he would bring to Ward. And I'll tell you what, that's what I mean. Ward's going to be in for a test for this fight. I believe he'll pass the test, but I think it's a tough fight. I think it's a really tough fight. I think he will have to step his game up to win the fight. But I'm looking that he will do that. And when he does that, that takes him again to another level and takes him back to where he was a year or two ago. When you pass those tests, that brings you back your muscle memory, man. You start to realize who you are and what what you can do.
What you're good at.
Right, what you're good at. So, but this kid will bring it out of him, because I think he's about 6'2", 6'2.5". He's a big kid. Like Kovalev's, he's bigger than Kovalev. Fast kid. Cubans are always quick on their feet.
You love that footwork.
I'll tell you, but I really, I'm not. I think they move too much for my liking. But,
okay. Well, let me move on here because we're running out of time. But I just real quick, something I brought up to a friend of mine, Bernie Vukovic, big fan of yours, a fight promoter. Bernie, we were talking the other night at the Brighton Hot Dog Shop. I said, do you think he has aspirations like Roy Jones did to move up to the heavyweight division, meaning Andre Ward? He said, nah, I don't think so. I said, well, he said, not big enough. Well, I said, look, Roy Jones Jr., barely 6 foot, he was able to do it, but then he talked about who he would be fighting against today, obviously Klitschko and Tyson Fury. We're talking 6'6", 6'7", 6'8". Do you think that would ever happen to Andre Ward heavyweight?
Well,
anything's possible.
I think he can do it. I tell these guys all the time, if you're a middleweight, 160, you can fight. History shows you can fight anyone. Guys have proven that they've gone up to they're at 160. And people always talk about Roy Jones. Bob Fitzsimmons did it, okay? That was way back. But the guys that they don't talk about are the guys that come from 140 and fought guys that fought at heavyweight. Look at Charlie Burley. Look at Harry Greb. Harry Greb started 140 pounds, and he beat Gene Tenney. Gene Tenney's the only guy to beat Jack Dempsey, who was heavyweight.
Only retired undefeated heavyweight, other than Marciano.
Exactly. So, I think he could do it, and I think that if he gets past Kovalev, sometimes the cruiserweight division really doesn't have much interest So he may, for the challenge and for history and for his legacy, he may skip over cruiserweight and go to heavyweight and try it. And I think he can do it because can he beat one of the bigger heavyweights? Maybe, maybe not, but there's 4 or 5 titles out there that consider world championships.
Just in case you're playing some sort of trivia game at home, the man that defeated Bob Fitzsimmons for the heavyweight championship, gentleman Jim Corbett. So we passed it on. He was just testing me. He does it every time I come here. Okay, a couple of minutes. It's Pacquiao. It's Bradley, the rubber match. It's April the 9th, MGM, Showtime pay-per-view, courtesy of HBO. I know you love Pacquiao. The boy Tim Bradley has really brought to the game a lot to the game too. Your thoughts about that fight?
No doubt. Good fight. It was a good fight the first 2 times. I thought Pacquiao beat him both times. I mean, the first time Bradley got the decision, but I really didn't. I mean, in my opinion, I thought Pacquiao won the fight. So I got to favor him for the 3rd fight, unless for some reason, you know, this shoulder surgery has hindered him mentally even more than physically. You know, he supposedly had this rotator cuff surgery. So I don't know. He's coming right off of a Mayweather fight. We haven't seen what he's been like after the Mayweather fight. So, you know, there could be some concern there as far as, you know, his, I guess he'd be inactive as well too, right? Because this has been last year already. So I like Pacquiao. I have to go with Pacquiao.
One last note, A Street Ambridge, world-class boxing, also the home of the Polish Falcons. They have a great fish fry here. I thought I'd give them a little love too. I love those folks. All right, listen, we're out of here. Priory tomorrow night, North Shore. Get up there, enjoy it. And I promise you won't be disappointed. And if you can't make it, it'll be on PCNC. So long from Tommy Yankello's World Class Boxing in Ambridge.